for your future. And what is the difference between innovators and techno users? The value of our projects relies on what? A fast-growing market, like Pierre explained earlier, and what we want to address are business needs. Match and cleans is a business needs. Insight is a business needs. Data exchange address some business needs in companies that are, we want to transfer some data from an application A to an application B, and we want to transform this data. We address also some business needs in financial market with EPM. We address also all the reporting needs with Insight, etc., etc. You can see that we don't do technology for the pleasure of doing technology. We want to address business needs on the market. And for you, in your career, it's very important to understand this. The end user, the people that at the end pay you, they speak about business needs. They don't speak about technology. If you continue to think about this, you will understand that for an end user, the fact you are using Java, Apache framework, or .NET technology, they don't care. All they want is an answer to their needs. So the technology we use must always be at the services of the needs. So sometimes you can be tempted to say, but sometimes when you see some advertising for work or for everything, people say, I'm using this Apache framework, it's wonderful. Believe me, I work in Java field since 15 years. You have a new, amazing, wonderful Java framework every year. So the question here is, what I want to do? I want to be a newcomer every year because I will try this amazing new framework, and next year someone will tell me, oh no, this framework is much better. Everything you did until this framework was useless, now you will do better with this framework. So you stop everything you knew, and you start again, and you are a newcomer every year. And I have seen a lot of people like this in my career. Every year, they speak about a new framework, but at the end, when you speak about what is the most important, and what is the most important are business needs, they have no answer. And for you, it's very important to understand this. It is that when you are a techno user, it means what you want is just use framework. You are like assembling bricks. You take bricks that someone else did, and you build a wall, and that's all. The question is, what are we doing on our project? What are we doing when we work on an add-on? It's like building a brick. It's like being a brick producer. If you have to understand that people who use this open source framework, a lot of open source framework, what are they doing? They just put bricks together and they build a wall. What you are doing is much more interesting. Why? Because you give this framework to people that will use them. We are providing some API for the end user, and with this API, they are building more complex applications. And also, you play a role of an architect. You design your own application. You have a much more valuable work than just assembling bricks. So the question you have to ask to yourself is, which one is more funny on the long term? And believe me, if you want to have a higher value on the market, it's better to be a brake producer or to be an architect than just assembling brakes. That's all. Thank you. Oh, yes, I think you can. Oh, it's me again.
Yeah, yes.
Quality enforcement, sorry.
I cannot.
Oh, I wanted Pierre to present, but he said no.
No.
Okay. So, quality enforcement by David. So it's still me, sorry.
But don't forget that you have a presentation next time.
Ah, okay, yes. I knew I had to present one stuff and I thought it was already done. Okay, here I will speak about things you already know, but sometimes it's good to say it again because we have a lot of newcomers, so I want everyone to have the same language, to know the same things. It's very important. Quality and more. So we will speak about quality in the documentation, quality in team interaction, usage of tools, benchmarking, and Java code. So the documentation is as important as the quality of the code. I like this image, the documentation. I speak about the documentation that you will find in the product, that the end user will read. This documentation is a contract. It is a contract between Orchestra Networks and our customer. The software must do what the documentation says, and what the documentation says, the software must do. I don't know if in Vietnam it is the same as in France, but when you subscribe a contract to an insurance company, I don't know if you ever try to read it, but it's very difficult to understand. I tried sometimes to read and you cannot understand. It's very complex. And they did it on purpose because they don't want to give your money back when you have a trouble, a motor accident, or I don't know. We want to avoid this situation. We want our Java API, our software to be usable and understandable by everyone. So it's very important to have a clear documentation. This documentation is not only the wonderful user guide Pierre provides, it's also the tooltip, it's also the online help, including the release note. For instance, a good quality release note means I want in my release note to track all changes, all bug fixed since the last version. I need to track whatever could have an impact on the usability of my software. And also, I spoke about the user guide, but also the Javadoc. The Javadoc must be clear in order for an end user. I was speaking before that we were providing framework to our end user. The end user, if you want to use our API, the first thing he will do is read the Javadoc. If the Javadoc is unclear or worse, wrong, of course, he will not be able to use it. And as Pierre said before, we have more and more requests for support. It means that we have more and more users using our add-ons, and it's a very good news, and that's why the team grew since 2 years. But it implies that we have more and more support. The best way to avoid to lose time via the support is a clear documentation. You don't see everything I see on the support, but we have a lot of basic questions. And when I mean basics, sometimes it's already written in the documentation, but sometimes it is not. So a way to avoid to lose time via because of the support is to have a very good documentation. Here, I added a sentence also about the Javadoc from Nicolas Boileau. It was a writer 300 years ago, a French writer. Whatever is well conceived is clearly said, and the words to say it flow with ease. What does it mean? It means that when you write a Java API, if you cannot produce clear Javadoc, it means the underlying code will be unclear in your brain. It's sure. And each time one of you did poor Javadoc, poor quality Javadoc, each time the Java code under was really bad. So when you write the Javadoc, it will help you also to formalize better what you have to do. That's why I ask you, when you know you will publish an API, the first thing to do is I write my interface and I write my Javadoc before writing the code. It's very important. Doing this, you will formalize what you understood, and it will help you to see better if you have a misunderstanding or not on the specification. What does that imply? A good and clear documentation. Of course, it has a cost. Of course, it has a cost. Yes, we know it. So the question is, does it appear in my project plan? That's why I took a wonderful example from FOM, the wind. You know, FOM means wind. Okay? So FOM did this very good project plan in which he includes the documentation, online help, documentation, and also the validation of your English writing by our technical writer. I know that, as Pierre said, we have a working plan, and sometimes we have a lot of features to provide in a very few times. So I know it has a cost, but forget this cost will have more impact at the end of the project than if you think about it at the beginning. So each working plan must include online help, user guide, Java documentation. You must estimate the cost of this documentation at the beginning of the project and not do it at the end. You stop me if you have any question. Team interaction. You need to think about only one team. I need to say that, for instance, Sun, the mountain. Louis, that's it, Sun. He does it very well with Vladimir. It's a difficult work because he has to work with someone he has never seen, that is in Paris, and only via Skype and email. And he does it very well. You need to think that the guy in Paris and you are just one team. And it's very important in the relationship. Of course, when I say one team, it does not mean to send an email to the R&D too quickly. Okay? So it means we take time to discuss. They are not our friends like we are here because we know each other, but we are only one team in the meaning that we share the same goal. We share the same stakes. Okay? So we have at one point to see one team in our mind. It will help us to understand that no one wants to compete or no one wants to bother the other. We all want success. So we need to communicate more between Paris and Hanoi, especially when we are interacting on the same component. For instance, I speak about the XML file that sometimes disappear in Hanoi, mostly, sadly. Or the French translations that disappear, stuff like this. So how to avoid this? Just by communicating with people, saying, hi, I want to change something, is it okay for you? Are you working on the same component? Yes, no, etc. So here, if you have ideas to improve our procedure, please share with us your ideas. I speak about XML schema, but it's okay. You understand. Here are some tools to help us. Please think about checking SonarQube we have put in place to code check. It's very important. If you don't know about what I am speaking about, there is only two solutions. You are in the test team, and it's okay if you don't understand this. You are in the development team, and here you have to go to see Fook after the meeting. CVS, for instance, I discover that some of you sometimes work on their own computer and don't commit for days because you are afraid of what you are doing, etc. I can understand this. Sometimes you want to work alone, but it's very easy. You can create CVS branches. So you can ask via time if you have questions on how to create a branch to work isolated. One last point, it's very important on the new add-on metadata hierarchy, but it's also very important with other add-on, of course. Do not test with only 10 records. I will tell you this story. For instance, it happened to me with the R&D. I asked them, are you doing benchmarking? And they said, yes, and we are doing benchmarking. So I said to them, okay, I am testing 100 million of records. What did you do with this? And they say, 100 million of records? No, our benchmarking is limited to 500,000. 500,000, no customer has this volume. All our customers are above 1 million, 3 million, 10 million of records. So you have to understand that it's not because your Java code seems quick that it is really quick in a customer situation. You have to test with more than 100,000 of records. If you can test with 1 million, it's much better, of course. And it's also very important for the test team, because as a tester, you have the responsibility to validate the behavior of the software, but also of its usability. And if you are testing only with 10 records, it will always be quick. And here I speak for EBX as well as for the add-on. When you test, you need to have at least 100,000 of records, and as I said, if you can test with 1 million of records, it is much better. This is very important, because response time is as important as a feature. You imagine you can have a lot of wonderful features if when you click on submit, you have to wait 5 minutes. You can imagine that no user will use our software. It's normal. So here it's very important because too often we discover performance issues with our customer, and we need to anticipate. One last slide about code. It's something I already said. Keep it simple. Normally we say keep it simple, stupid. KISS. It's not a band only. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. It means as Pierre said, the code must be maintained for at least for the next 20 years. So it means that anyone that comes after you in 10, 20 years must be able to understand your Java code very quickly. So it means I want my code to be always clear, simple. We need to put comments also to describe complex algorithm. What is a complex algorithm? It's very easy. You look at it and you will understand. If it's too long, for instance, you have 20, 30 lines consecutively, generally it's complex. Also, a good indicator is how long it took me to write this algorithm and to understand it and to fix it. The more it takes you time, except if you are a genius, the more complex it is. So put comments. And also, it's like with the Javadoc, when you put comments, it will help you to understand what you are doing. Here I put some other tooltip. You will have the slides, so you will be able to come back to it. I don't want to bother too much everyone, especially the test team, because I see the test team looking at me. What is he speaking about? So I'm sorry. Next time I will do it in French, so everyone will look at me like this. So I give some tooltip. Just the last one. Fix to do, okay, on a day-to-day basis. Don't wait the end of the project. Do it each time Mr. Fogg, Pietine, or I commit to-dos, or your team leader. It's very important to do it. And of course, adjust your working plan. If you think that your code is perfect, of course, don't put this task. If your code is perfect, you will never have any to do. But alas, even me, I do not perfect code. So think about refactoring, and it takes time, we know it. One last point I have in mind since the beginning, and I think I'm not the only one, that we have a need for a common framework. Because between each add-ons, we share common problems, common solutions also. So we have some technical requirements that are the same. For instance, I want to upload a file, I want a data space, an enumeration on data space, I want some UI bin, I want many things. So it will avoid some copy-paste between add-ons, because you remember when we started the project, I said copy-paste is bad. But between add-ons, we have no choice. We have sometimes to copy-paste some code, because we do not have a common framework. So in the next month, I hope before the end of the year, we will start this project to develop a new framework that will include a lot of features that will be shared amongst all add-ons. So keep this in mind when you develop something. If you think it can be interesting in a common framework, you can send me an email to take track of this. And of course, the goal is always to focus on business values instead of technical requirements. It's more interesting always to focus on how I do this matching, which algorithm I will use, which new indicator I will create, which information I want to manage, instead of how I upload a file, how I create a progress bar, or some stuff like this. Always think about business value. For instance, here I have a list of UI needs for this framework. You will read it later, it's okay. And some core needs also. That's all for me. I hope I'm on time.
Okay, that's fantastic because this is a good time to have a little break. Because after that we'll give the floor to Eric. So good time for a break. Thank you, David.